Okay.
All right, I got the thumbs up from Panda, and that's what we're going to start with. By the way, I'm John Rossi, along with Shirley Stone. I co-chair the club, and we couldn't be more delighted to have this large crowd here on the first nice day of this calendar year. I'm going to begin by introducing Eric Rhinebeck, who is actually the executive, right, of Panda.
The board chair.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Great, thanks. So with Panda, Panda stands for Public Access Northern Dutchess Area. So we've been your community TV for 30 years. And if you aren't familiar with us, we're on cable on channel 1303. We have our own app that works on TVs and phones, and the app is called Panda Now, and it's free. And I think it's the best way to watch us. But we also have a YouTube channel, and you can find that by searching Panda Now. We have, of course, all of the trustee and council meetings for Red Hook, Rhinebeck, and Tivoli. We record events like this, but we also have a lot of fun stuff. We had 5 different holiday programs in all 3 towns and 2 towns and 3 villages. So there's a lot to watch. If you want to find out what's going on, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, either as Panda TV Now or Panda TV. And subscribe to follow those pages. We post every time that we have a new program. And we also are public access. That's the first 2 initials in our name, which means that anybody in our communities can create video content and we'll run it. It's First Amendment living. So you can go to our website to learn more, and that's called pandatv.org. So thanks for having us.
Eric, thank you, and thanks for reminding us all that we still have a First Amendment. He says it this morning. Of course, we're here for our candidates, and we want to hear from each of them, and that includes the questions that we'll be taking from you folks. That's what we gave out the cards. Who you will make decisions about is the best 2 candidates to represent the village government. But we're also all Democrats here. So let's just take a moment real fast and allow me, if you will, to just say a couple of quick words, more importantly, a couple of, I think, valuable observations. Shirley and Susan, they run this speaker series, and this must be the 13th or 14th one that we've done. And they always give me a couple of minutes to introduce everybody, but I still got a couple of minutes right now, but I'm going to talk a little bit about my observations and the Democrats, at least here in Dutchess County and here in Rhinebeck. And I think it's valuable because I have a perspective that I think is unique. I've been knocking on doors since the school board election earlier this year, and I haven't stopped. My wife, Mrs. Rossi, has said, "Well, how many Democrats do you think you've canvassed?" And I said, I stopped counting after a couple of thousand. Now, I'm not boasting because there are people that did many more doors than I did. But I can tell you that through the Carrageri campaign, I knocked on more doors than anyone I know in different parts of this county. So there's 30 municipalities in this county that are comprised into 20 towns. I can't tell you that I was to all 30 municipalities, but I was into at least 20 of them. And on a lot of Democrat doors, and I kept hearing the same concerns. And so many of the folks here have done door knocking, including our 3 candidates already. And you're lucky if you get 20% of the people home. And what I found was Democrats, and this goes all the way back to January of last year through right now today. Particularly, I have to tell you, women Democrats, in a word, scared. And I don't think that even with the terrible news that we've had in the first 10 days of this calendar year, we shouldn't be scared. And I'm going to tell you why we shouldn't be scared. My observation. So I know we say when Democrats vote, Democrats win. Actually, a truer statement is when women Democrats vote, we win. That's the truth. You don't have to take it from me. I first started to notice this with a young woman that reached out to me in January of last year, said she wanted to run for the school board. could you help me collect signatures? And I said, sure. And that young woman is Gabby Malsigliano, and she happens to be here today. And Gabby said, yeah, I'm real glad that she was running because, truthfully, nobody really wants to run for the school board. You don't get paid anything. It's a lot of work, a lot of hours. And who would have expected that there were 9 candidates running for the school board last calendar year? So Gabby said to me, well, besides now we got the signatures, now what do we do? And I said, now we go door to door. And that's where we began to have conversations with our fellow Democrats. And the messaging was pretty simple. Remember, this is only a few months, 8 weeks after the general election in 2024 when our vice president lost to the new president. And what the messaging was, we got to get out to vote. Democrats, we can't take any of these races lightly, every one of them. Budget votes, school board votes, library votes, and that messaging worked. And what happened? Some of you will remember in 2022 when we had the book banner election, and that generated a lot of course, attention. And that set a record about 1,200 voters. But typically you have 400 voters come out. Well, in the school board election with Gabby and the other candidates, almost 1,400 came out. Actually beat the book banning vote in 2022. And because I'm such a nerd about this stuff, I asked the town clerk, the school clerk, for the voter rolls so I could see who voted. And I can tell you, it was a majority of were women. Well, this is really interesting. And that's when I began to get cross connections with Cara Gary. Cara Gary is running for the first time against an incumbent judge. If you don't know, and I didn't know at the time, these are 10-year seats. So the judge that was there, white male Republican, had been there for 10 years, looking for another 10 years. And into that fray steps a newcomer, a woman with 3 kids, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 13-year-old, husband, attorney, works full-time. Cara's a public defender, she works full-time. And I don't know, I did say, why are you doing this? And she runs a countywide campaign. She's the underdog. Then we think, well, maybe it's close. I think, the punchline on election night, landslide. She kills the guy. My wife is saying, why did you say kill? All right, honey. Yep. Man chose to It's a landslide. She wins by 9,000 votes. Cara Gary gets 42,000 votes. The highest vote of anyone that night. How did that happen? Because we looked at the voter data and all of us sit out off your elections. The biggest voting bloc in this county is actually women Democrats. 200,000 voters in Dutchess County. Just about 1 out of 4 is a woman Democrat. We shouldn't be losing any elections in Dutchess County. And so we looked at the women voters, and men, I'm going to give you the statistic, but we're worse. Of the 45,000 women voters, 30,000 sat out the general election in 2023. We had a family court judge that lost by 644 votes. So Gary obviously made a great connection with women, and so that was our focus, and that's what propelled us to victory, and frankly lifted a lot of the other candidates as well. No one got more votes than Gary that night, and because I am a nerd, I look back to previous elections, including 2023 when Anthony Parisi did a wonderful job, except Cara actually got more votes than Parisi, who was the reigning Dem off-election vote year champion until Gary came along. I said, don't take it from me. There's of course we have a county committee. Michael Slaby and Jess Lurie actually sit on that committee at the county level. Our Board of Election Commissioner did a special report, and I'm going to quote to you what she said. Additionally, for our discussions tonight, blah, 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 we did an analysis countywide, this is after the election, of turnout by women voters in off years, going back to 2017. Little graph here, I know you can't see it, but 2025 is the high water mark. And she says, the Gary push for women voters made a real impact.
We have 4?
The Gary win actually is historic because you may or may not know is that there are only 2 criminal courts in Dutchess County. Carrie Gary now will prevail over all criminal court cases for the next 10 years. And you may not remember, but in 2020, we elected Jessica Siegel, another Democrat, who's 5 years into her term. So we have what I'm telling you is that we have 2 women that are now Democrats that will be overseeing every criminal case in Dutchess County from now until 2030. That's no small accomplishment. And it happened through women voting. So it occurs to me that here in Dutchess, in the town of Rhinebeck, we made some history as well. We just haven't really talked about it. But for the first time in the history of Dutchess, of the town of Rhinebeck, but we had 3.
The village.
No, the town. Thank you. We had an all-woman slate in 2025, right? And that included Deb Heck, Dana Peterson, and Elizabeth Bizier. Oh, Dana's here. So, Supervisor Quigley couldn't make it, but she sent a note along that really talks to, by the way, we have 3 women candidates here. If you could do another round of applause. This is a note from the supervisor. As the first woman supervisor elected to the town of Rhinebeck, I want to thank all of you for deciding to run for office. We all appreciate that the 3 of you are running for office. Thank you. Despite being over half the U.S. population, women are still a minority in elected positions. Nationally, women hold only about 28% of the elected seats. That's true. Women in office holders experience significantly higher levels of sexism, gender-based discrimination, threats, and harassment compared to our male counterparts. So seeking office is not for the faint of heart, even locally. I know firsthand how important it is for women to serve, and when women run and are elected, we all benefit. That, ladies and gentlemen, is true. And at this point, you may want to applaud again. I'm going to stop talking. Hey, the club has put this together, and when I say put it together, sent out the RSVP, set up the chairs, prepared the food, did all the intake, but we're not involved in any of the moderation or any of the questions. We've asked Eric, who many of you know, Eric Steinman, formerly of the Hudson Valley Pilot, if he would be willing to come here, spend his afternoon, and prepare the questions, and Eric has done that. So I'm turning everything over to Eric at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, do you just want to go over what some of the rules are first, or would you rather have me do that?
I would much rather have you do it. I think the audience would too, Eric.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to the club for inviting me. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I really appreciate everyone being here. This is nearly standing room. There are a few seats up front if anyone needs a seat. But this is an indicator of how strong civic engagement is in Rhinebeck, and I think it's fantastic. And I felt like over the last few years, it's just gotten bolder and bolder. So thank you everyone for being here. This is a community conversation, just to be clear. This is not a debate. This is not a takedown. This is a series of questions with 3 people that want to do good for the community. So I just want to frame that as it is, and you're all here as participants, so thank you for being here. My understanding of the rules is that we're going to have each candidate give an introduction, a brief introduction, about 3 to 5 minutes, hopefully. Yes? Okay. And after their introductions, I'm going to be asking questions that I have formulated. No one has seen them, as John had suggested. No one has seen them except for myself. So no candidates, no one in the club. It's just all up here and down here. So after I ask the questions and we get responses, we are going to segue into questions that came from the audience that had been written down. This does not include people standing up and raising their hands. We do not have the facility or the time to do that, unfortunately, but I appreciate everyone's cooperation.
Eric?
Yeah.
The people or even you stand so we can see who's speaking. In the back, we can't see anybody.
Okay. Well, That could be, if you want to, I don't think it's practical to have people stand when they're answering questions necessarily, but
Or when they're giving their introduction.
when they're doing their introductions, if that's agreeable to everyone and everyone feels willing and capable of standing, we will do that. Thank you. And there are more cards if anyone wants to submit more questions. Also, I want to backtrack a little bit. When I'm asking these questions, whether they are coming from me or coming from the audience, each candidate will have approximately 2 minutes to answer those questions. I will cut people off if they are going too long. This is not a mercenary thing, this is just to keep things going. And if, this is not compulsory, but if a candidate feels the need to respond to something that maybe another candidate had said, they have 1 minute approximately to respond. This is not compulsory, but there is that 1 minute reserved for each candidate if they want to respond to something that another candidate had said. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Eleanor Pupko, who is at my immediate left, and then Jennifer Newfield, and then Mimi Jo Carnella. So, did we have like a coin flip? Who's going to start first? Okay. Well, why don't we'll start with Eleanor? Why don't you're right here.
Thank you and welcome. I've lived in the village of Rhinebeck for 25 years. I'm present in the community as a renter, a birder, a bocce player, a book club member, a Rhinebeck at Home member, a walker, a hiker, and member of both the Rhinebeck Democratic Club and the committee. Today, I'm here as a village trustee asking for your support. Throughout my life, I've successfully met challenges in a way that is indicative of my character, work ethic, and effectiveness. I was born in the Dominican Republic and spent my preschool years in an area so primitive that we did not have running water. At age 4, my family moved to this country where we eventually settled on a small dairy farm in Boonville, New York. Money was short. I learned valuable lessons about hard work, thrift, being a good steward of the land, and developed a passion for politics. I was 18, my brother was 16, my mother dying of cancer, when my brother and I took over the struggling dairy farm. Not only did we turn a profit, but we also became a top dairy in the county as measured by output per cow. We were environmentalists long before it became mainstream. We composted and recycled. We stopped using Roundup on our crops in the 1980s. It took the village 40 years to catch up. After we sold the herd, I obtained a master's degree in mathematics and became a high school teacher. During my teaching career, I turned around the mathematics program in 2 diverse school systems, a poor rural upstate district and a suburban district in the Hudson Valley. I was recognized as a New York State master teacher and selected to accept the National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence Award on behalf of the high school. Upon retirement, I served on the Comprehensive Plan Committee. Dutchess County Planning wrote this about the plan. Quote, over the last few years, the committee engaged in what was seen as the most extensive municipal comprehensive planning process the county has ever seen, particularly from a public engagement perspective. I chaired the Civic Engagement Subcommittee responsible for that public engagement. Fast forward to my first term. Shortly after being sworn in, I noticed that water was pooling at each of the ADA compliant cutouts at the corners of East Market and Center. My concerns were summarily dismissed, so I contacted Ty and Bond. They confirmed my observation, and the village board ended up withholding final payment until the contractor remilled and sloped the street for proper runoff. I found a way to adjust overpayments and employee vacation time in an equitable way, and worked with a board member to ensure that the transition was fair to both the employees and the taxpayers. I advocated for renter protections. I staved off gross receipts tax that would have raised our electric bills. I fought to preserve the original definition of revenue in the Spectrum contract to prevent a revenue drop of $4,500. I found an error in the fire protection contract with a town that would have cost us about $5,000. I found an incorrect amount in a contract to purchase a truck. I uncovered an overbilling of $144 per month. I helped facilitate the placement of a pollinator garden. I'm liaison to the newly formed Parks Committee, and we're developing a master plan for each of our parks. The village needs what I bring to the board, someone who pays attention to detail, vets contracts, reads minutes and reports, and provides feedback. I pose questions that others may be embarrassed to ask. I've steadily advocated for clearly written policies and procedures, and we're now moving in that direction. I'm an independent thinker. Each of us, whether a trustee or mayor, has precisely one vote on the board. I've exercised that vote carefully. I'm a worker. I spent 1.5 days with Lions repairing playground equipment. Just one gentleman and I showed up to help Vanessa check and mulch the plantings and the trees for Trib's program. And I hand weeded the mulched areas in the mini park in preparation for the ducky race. Finally, many of you know me as an inveterate door knocker for the Democrats. Last fall, I knocked on over 1,000 doors for county candidates. Thank you for opening your doors to me, and I hope you continue to do so.
Now, Jennifer, would you please introduce yourself?
I grew up in Rhinebeck. This village is where I learned what community actually means. Jim Yang and I chose to raise our family here because we wanted our kids to grow up with that same sense of connection, and they have. And today we have 3 generations of my family: my mom, my husband, and my kids. I left Rhinebeck and spent much of my career working in places where cooperation was anything but easy. I moved to Russia in 1993 and built a strategic communications firm that grew from 15 people to more than 1,800 people across 86 cities in 11 time zones. Later, at USAID in Nepal, I coordinated communications among international organizations and the UN during the writing of a new constitution in a post-conflict country. When I came back to Rhinebeck in 2007, we started small with a shop on Montgomery Street. That grew into a line that's now carried in thousands of stores in the US and internationally, all while staying true to ethical sourcing, fair trade partnerships, and environmentally responsible production. As our business works toward B Corp certification, which is basically climate smart for businesses, that discipline gets even sharper. Environmental goals have to show up in budgets, risk decisions, accountability, and communication. This isn't theory for me, it's work I've been doing in practice for decades. Everywhere I've worked, and even in my personal life, the lessons I learned have been consistent. Values only matter if they're operationalized. Vision only works if it shows up in everyday decisions. And in all of my roles, my job was never about winning arguments. It was about helping very different people align around shared goals before pressure turns into conflict. Right now we have a president that believes the only laws that apply to him are his own sense of right and wrong. I lived in Russia during the rise of Putin and the oligarchs. And the difference between there and here is critical. People there never expected the rules to apply equally. We do, and that expectation is worth defending. That expectation that the rules apply equally doesn't just matter in Washington. It matters in the everyday decisions towns and villages make. When we skip process, ignore adopted plans, or change the rules on the fly, even for things people might support, we quietly teach people that fairness is optional. And once people believe that, trust erodes. Nationally, politics are divisive and exhausting, and many people feel talked at instead of listened to. And as Democrats, we talk a lot about participation and inclusion, but outside the blue bubble, it doesn't always feel that way. Repair has to start somewhere, and I believe it starts here. Rhinebeck has benefited from decades of serious, thoughtful work by committed people in the village, the town, and across our community. We've put real effort into protecting historic character, supporting small businesses, and resisting the kind of hollowed-out, chain-driven development that's erased the identity of so many villages like Rhinebeck. That didn't happen by accident. The moment Rhinebeck is in right now isn't about things having gone wrong. It's about what happens when a place is active, engaged, and under real pressure. When that happens, the challenge isn't effort or intention, it's alignment. It's making sure that good plans, good programs, and good people are actually connected in how decisions get made, not just on paper, but in practice. You can see this across many of the issues we care about: the comprehensive plan, climate smart work, land use decisions, and even in how the town and village relate to one another. But when coordination comes late, conflict fills the gap. The opportunity now isn't more plans or more committees. It's stronger connective governance, clearer coordination, shared decision frameworks, communication that helps plans actually shape decisions, especially when the pressure is on. That's the work I know how to do. I've spent my career connecting people, priorities, and institutions early because avoiding the mess is always less painful than cleaning it up. We brought our family here not because Rhinebeck is frozen in time, but because it's a place that knows how to grow with intention, a place where change is shaped, not stumbled into. We wanted our kids to grow up here with the same sense of belonging that I did. And now that they're leaving on the next chapter of their life, I am working to make sure that Rhinebeck will be the home they want to come back to someday. I'm running because I want this village to keep evolving in a way that's fair, thoughtful, and grounded in the values that made it my home. That kind of future gets built when we focus on residents, not factions, and bring people together around what comes next, here in Rhinebeck and beyond.
Okay, last but not least, Mimi Jo Carmella.
Hi, everyone. Actually, my full name is Mi-Young Kim Jo Carnella, and it is a mouthful, and I go by Mimi Jo to some others. And obviously, I'm here running as village trustee. So I just want to take a quick moment, and I hope this isn't going to take up too much time, just to recognize this moment of grief, communal grief and bewilderment. I think we all share about, this year, the events of this year, let alone the past year. And it is really heartening, as John said, to see the democratic process working here in our village. And I want to thank everybody for their support and their care and their trust in this process. So thank you for being here. This is exciting. As I thought about what I wanted to say, I thought about what I would want to hear if I were sitting out there in the audience, and I came up with 3 questions that I decided to answer. The first one is, who's Mimi? What does she care about? The second one is, what does she do about the things that she's passionate about? And then the third one is what I bring to a role as trustee. So when John and I moved here, we found a home, not just a place to live. I'm going to cry because it's been so welcoming and so amazing. It's a beautiful natural setting around a beautiful architectural village. We take advantage of the stores and the restaurants, the galleries, the library, the theater. We have a haven here, and we've nested, we've roosted, we've grown roots, and I think I just mixed my metaphors, so please excuse me. I want to talk about my passions very quickly because I think they align with the strengths of our village. The first one is I really would love to leave the world not a hot mess for the generations to come. The environment. The second thing is arts and culture. I've spent my professional life and my volunteer life supporting arts because I believe it's the fabric of our society. It's a form of communication. Public engagement is communal creativity, and how fabulous for us. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. JFK was a huge proponent of this, just saying. And then the third thing I really, really care about is people and relationships, basically building community. Next question, what do I do about those things? And these are the things that I currently do as a trustee and as a volunteer. For our community, I sit on the Northern Duchess Daycare Center board, and they are the only not-for-profit organization offering affordable daycare to our young families. How else do we support thriving young families here, but to support organizations like that? What else do I do? I am a proud Rotary member. I see quite a few of you out there. It's this fabulous organization of people who just want to do good and serve, and it's a fellowship that is priceless. For arts and culture, I chair the board of a not-for-profit in Ankrum, New York called Forge Project, which I'm not sure you're all familiar with, but it is a Native organization that supports and cultivates Native leadership in arts and culture. It's been a very interesting experience there. And then I also am a trustee of this wonderful institution where we're all sitting. It's more than just books, right? It is a communal hub, it is an educational hub, and I'm proud to be a supporter here. And then for the environment, I sit on a couple of different civic committees. I've been a Climate Smart Task Force volunteer. I helped do the Climate Action Plan, and then I currently sit on the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. I have to speak really carefully because these words, like all kind of CPIC, CAP, you know, all these acronyms. And I'm the Climate Smart Task Force representative for that implementation committee, and keeping my eye, hopefully advocating actually, for having strategic, sustainable strategies for all of the goals, not just as like a thing that sits separately. So as you can see, I'm already really involved as a volunteer and as a leader in our community, and I think that running for village trustee is my next step in service to our village. I'd like to continue my work being a liaison to the Climate Smart Task Force. I would like to bring my board leadership. I lead from a place with openness and curiosity and creativity, and we need to implement the 3 plans that we have, and we need collaborative, cooperative thinking in order to get these plans on the ground and moving. And I will bring my experiences as a volunteer, a trustee, a board chair, to be a hardworking, efficient, and collaborative leader. So thank you for your time. I'm out of time.
Thank you, candidates. That was great. I think that was a really strong start to the, I was going to say evening, but it's still afternoon. But who knows how long this might go. One thing I want to mention is, as much as we appreciated the applause during the initial introductions, I'd ask you to hold your applause till the end, just so we can keep things moving. So, thank you. Considering each and every candidate had made some sort of mention of the environment and their environmental dedication, I'm going to start with an environmental question. Rhinebeck village government has moved the needle over the past few years on climate and environmental conservation efforts, which includes projects like the village compost plan, various efficiency upgrades to village buildings, as well as receiving a silver certification from the New York State Climate Smart Communities just last year. What do each of you intend on doing and accomplishing to build on these existing accomplishments? Since we started with Eleanor, I'm gonna start with Mimi.
We do have a climate adaptation plan, and we have a climate action plan. The climate action plan was done in conjunction with the community, and from the survey, the most important issue is reducing plastic waste in our community. There's not much that the board can actually do to enforce that, but I believe that the board could encourage communications and events surrounding educations for that. In the climate adaptation plan, there's, right now I know that the Hudson 7 is creating another acronym that I have to think through, Drinking Water Source Protection Plan. And once that plan comes out, I'd be really, really interested and supportive of keeping clean drinking water for our village and for everybody that drinks it. So those are like the top things that I can think of that I know are in the plans and coming up.
Okay, thank you, Mimi. Jennifer, would you like to weigh in?
Sure. So I think, and you alluded to this in what you, in your opening remarks, but the purpose of the climate smart is that it's an overlay for everything that the village does. So I think the next natural step is making sure that it's integrated into all of the departments. Things like the natural resources inventory, that can be an overlay for the climate smart as well, when making decisions about even things like what people think on sixth senses and development and land usage. So I think that the integration into all of the different committees is essential, but I think the other part of it is communication with the public. So what needs to happen now is the public needs to get on board. And the programs really have to take off. More people should be participating in the compost program. I noticed, for example, there's a Facebook page for the Climate Smart program or for the green program, and that should be part of a village communications plan, so that's building village communications and they're piggybacking off of each other. So I would say that probably the communications part of it seems like a really important part at this time.
Thank you, Jennifer. And then Eleanor Pupko.
So some of the specific thoughts that I would have would be, first of all, recycling. I know plastics was mentioned, but that's definitely a very difficult problem because there's so many different numbers on these pieces of plastic, and it's very difficult to sort out what goes in which bin and what really can be recycled. So I think we need a lot more work on that. I think we need to push for clean energy. Unfortunately, the CCA proposal evaporated. I'm hoping the state might come up with either some more ways to encourage more clean energy, or maybe improve the program so that it can be resuscitated and that we can participate in it. Then there's some local things we could do. I'm very concerned about drainage. I've walked home more than once with water up to my ankles, and I think we need to be careful with the increase in the severity of storms and the amount of precipitation that we're getting, that we're prepared for these eventualities when these storms get big enough. You know, are the pipes cleaned out? Are they, you know, is the diameter appropriate for these sorts of severe weather events that we could be expecting? And I think that's a pretty good start.
Okay. Thank you all.
Last year, the Rhinebeck Town Board pushed forward an occupancy tax, which many on the existing village board opposed, insisting that such a tax would largely benefit the town while existing to the detriment of the village. This issue is just one of many, many issues that underscore a long-standing tension between the town of Rhinebeck and the village of Rhinebeck, particularly the government representation. If you were given the opportunity to serve, or serve again, in your case, as a village trustee, how would you hope to either create more harmony between the town and village, or possibly fight more effectively for village concerns? And I'm going to start with Jennifer, and then we'll go to Mimi, and then Eleanor. You can grab that.
Oh, right. So first of all, as regards the occupancy tax, I think it's interesting because the village has developed this amazing tool of the comprehensive plan, which is really a fulsome and incredibly aspirational document. So I think if it's going to have teeth, it should be used as a tool. And my reading of it is that it's a resident-focused economy and resident-focused development. So I don't see any reason that we wouldn't be supportive of an occupancy tax. Furthermore, there haven't been negative effects in local surrounding areas with their tax. And just logically speaking, a 3% tax would seem to serve the purposes of the comprehensive plan. So I think that should be used as a tool to make those decisions. As for improving the town and village relations, at this point, a lot of it is coming down to, I think, lack of coordination at earlier times. So this is, I think that when it came to the occupancy tax, it may be that the village was informed too late to have meaningful input as to how they were going to move forward with it. And so it may have felt abrupt to the village. So I think earlier interaction and earlier coordination, things like having a town liaison to the village and a village liaison to the town, I think would be really important. Exchanging information, and finding time outside of official channels to spend time together as well.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Actually, yeah, can you hand that over to Mimi? Mimi Jo, can you respond, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
I believe you wanted us to respond, one, to the occupancy tax question, but more the question writ large, I think,
You know, the occupancy tax, it wasn't so much of a question, but it was just a sort of launch off
Okay,
to
an example.
deal, an
Okay.
example to deal with
Just
what is
clarifying.
ongoing tension between the town and
Yeah.
the village.
Okay. I think my approach to tense situations is to usually take it apart and examine one issue at a time. If the issue is about funding and finances, let's look at the numbers and sit down. That's pretty straightforward. If the issue is about differences in political ideas, then I think we need to take that to the community and ask people to vote on it. If the situation has arisen based on differences of how we support our constituents, I think that we have to understand when we come to talk about it, because, you know, it's great to try to do this ahead of time, but sometimes communication does break down and you get to a place. And so I think that the best way to approach that is to just have a goal and a process by which you will get to that goal. And all parties agree on that process and you move forward.
Thank you. And next is Eleanor Bubka.
Since you did use the occupancy tax to launch this question, I just want to give a very brief history. I believe the law was passed by the state in 1983. The first one implemented in the county was a 3% tax in 1984. 20 years later, it went to 4%. 20 years after that to 5%. So the last time it went up was in 2024. And I was on the village board at that time. I was never approached about going to the county and demanding a share. Nobody hollered, nobody screamed. So I have to say, I think that it's hard to criticize the town because nobody had ever raised a fuss about the tax. So I'm not saying it was executed perfectly, but I just want to point out that there was no history that seemed to indicate that this was going to be a big issue. I think that at one point, it was actually brought out at the board meeting that the town supervisor was willing to sit down and talk about a sharing agreement. And that was my first reaction. Why don't we ask to share it? If we think there's a problem with it, let's talk about sharing it. And I thought that would be a reasonable solution. And before my time runs out, I think what we need to do is we need to set aside grievances, personalities, past histories. It's time to put that all behind us. Let's move forward. Let's just break, stop. Everything that happened is over and done with. Can we now move forward, because we need to move forward for the good of both communities, the town and the village, and we are part of the town community.
Thank you very much. Since the comp plan has come up a few times in conversation, I'm going to ask a question about the Rhinebeck Village Comprehensive Plan. How do you see existing progress on the revamping and redrafting of the existing zoning code? And what would you intend to do to move things along to help the Village Comprehensive Plan become fully realized? And let's see, we start with Jennifer. So I'm actually going to start with Mimi.
Not Eleanor.
Eleanor should go.
Eleanor should go first.
I guess
Just
Eleanor,
saying,
okay.
Going down this way.
Yeah, okay.
Let's be fair.
Okay, we're going to start with Eleanor.
Just a question, are you asking about the zoning or about the whole
Well-
plan? Or what do you-
Okay, my question is, how do you see the existing zoning, the revamping and redrafting of the zoning code going? And what do you intend to do to move things along to help the Village Comprehensive Plan become fully realized?
Well, I was very involved in the comprehensive plan. I was on the comprehensive plan committee. I was on the land use committee, and I was the chair of the civic engagement and community values subcommittee. So I was, it was in my blood for several years. And I did all that work before I decided to run for the board. As far as the zoning, that is being undertaken by a working group. And I do think that we need to be a bit careful because there's a difference between a committee, a subcommittee, and a working group. So working groups are not subject to open meeting laws. They don't have to report out. They don't have to write minutes, they don't have to, they just can come up with a plan at the end. And I think, and I have mentioned this a couple times, that I think it would be better if we did report out. So in terms of, I can't tell you where we are in terms of the work, because the board has not really been updated.
Okay. So let's hand it over to Mimi.
I know that the zoning working group is working on it, and when they have issues, they do come to the comprehensive plan implementation committee to ask about specific questions. So as the implementation committee is trying to prioritize goals, we're understanding that there will be certain goals that are being undertaken right now by the zoning working group. So it's with over 250 goals, it's really hard to prioritize and sift through, and I think that we're doing a very good job of making progress on the zoning and then making progress on the goals apart from the zoning, because you can't stop everything just for the zoning laws, and there's things that can be done apart from them.
Okay. Jennifer?
So as far as I understand, actually implementation is going quite well. I have also understood that there's questions regarding the working groups and task forces. I wonder if there's some way to streamline committee work and working groups, task forces. There may be ways of reorganizing structures based on outcomes as opposed to functions. Which I think is something you would only know once you get into, at a board level, you have to make those decisions. I think it's about coming up with the goals, clear outcomes, timelines, and making sure that it's being enforced. So, that's what zoning exists for, is for enforcement, and just make sure that the plan has teeth, so that it can move forward.
Okay. Yeah. Eleanor's gonna.
Just a quick comment. When I was on the comprehensive plan committee, we had 6 subcommittees, and we met with the community. We had kitchen table conversations. We had meetings here at the library. We tried to keep people involved and informed, and I understand that might be a little bit difficult with some of these topics such as zoning. I just think that overall transparency is always the better way to go, not necessarily every specific detail, but I do think that being transparent is important.
Okay.
Could I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course. Grab
I do sit on the implementation committee, and we are working on a communication strategy and how to best include the community in moving forward. So it's all in the works. It's just a lot to handle at the beginning.
Okay. Jennifer? Okay. Just because I know the zoning question in regards to the comprehensive plan is a little bit in the weeds, I wanted to stick with the comp plan and just talk about something maybe a little more tangible. The comp plan was a 3 to 4 year effort to address the needs of potential growth in the village, and it highlighted residents' needs and desires for a walkable commercial and residential landscape. How do you feel the village is doing in regards to village sidewalks, pedestrian safety, and green space thus far? And what realistically would you like to see accomplished in, let's say, the next 2 to 4 years? So I'm gonna always miss.
It's me, I'll keep you on the
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, so we're gonna start with Mimi, and then we'll go to Eleanor, and then Jennifer, I believe. Okay.
I think that the comprehensive plan is a great plan, and you have to overlay that with what is currently going on right now in the village with the $1.6 million grant we got for the safe route to schools, right? Like, the village is moving forward on certain safety issues, right, for our children and for complete streets. In the comprehensive plan, there are a lot of goals, and we're hoping to look at the easier ones first to do, and then take it from there. So I don't know if I can answer your question directly, because I think I'm just too involved in the actual goal prioritizing to say we will get this done in 2 to 4 because it is a committee work, and we will get community input as well as how we're going to prioritize what is most important and what isn't. But yes, safe, walkable, bikeable streets are up there on my list of priorities.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer.
So man, we've been talking about sidewalks since I was a kid. I mean, honestly, I remember taking my bike from Cozine to the pool and falling over and scraping my knees on gravel and nearly getting run over by cars, and so yeah, so it's not exactly something new. It's time to get it taken care of. I think the comp plan has good plans for it. I would prioritize things that are immediately visible. So if you're talking about parking, get this, do the striping, reroute some of the parking space, or resize some of the parking spaces. There's a list of really great recommendations as regards sidewalks, as regards parking spaces. Get that done, make it visible so that people see that there's results immediately from what's going on. Get the support of the community, and then you can place as secondary goals, kind of the longer term things. You can evaluate what's been happening. Take parking, for example, which is going to alleviate a lot of the situation of walkability, right? So see how those first recommendations pan out. Have they helped enough? If they haven't helped enough, go to your second level. So are you talking with, are we talking about additional structures? Are we reconfiguring the bank and the municipal parking? As for the sidewalks, I know there's talk about, the problem with the sidewalks has been, and will continue to be presumably, the fact that they're owned by the businesses as opposed to, they're not municipally owned. I know people want to talk about them transferring the ownership, put the numbers together. This is just a numbers game. Someone can do that and come up with a plan. Let's fix them. It's just time. Let's get it over with.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor.
I think what happened was that we spent so much time writing this absolutely amazing comprehensive plan that we sort of ran out of time, and we didn't do this piece, which is very important, and that's prioritizing. So we have this implementation committee, and it's their job to do this prioritizing and to come up with, whatever it is, 1 to 2 year, 3 to 4, whatever timelines they think are appropriate. I don't want to insert myself into that process. I certainly have my own pet projects, but I would prefer to defer to the decisions of the implementation committee, because I think that, I go to every one of their meetings that I can go to, and I'm really excited by the progress that they're making.
Thank you. Rhinebeck Village has become an increasingly more and more desirable place for visitors and tourists alike. However, especially over the past few years, it's become less and less affordable for first-time homeowners, retirees, and renters. How do you plan to address the affordability issue within the village, and what are some of the efforts that have worked, or possibly not, in the recent past to address such affordability issues? So I think start with Jennifer, and then Eleanor. Mimi's keeping me in check. Okay.
Sorry, I
You've
know.
got ours.
I keep forgetting. I wonder if Eleanor would start with this one, because I know part of this is also yes, good cause eviction. So I know there's been some talk. So anyway, okay, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's been talk of things like good cause eviction. Again, this goes back to opposing pressures, right? So this is one of the ways that you could relieve affordability for renters. So 44% of Rhinebeck are renters, and they don't have a lot of protections as Rhinebeck gets more expensive. So good cause eviction is something that was examined, it's been tabled, maybe it's been correctly tabled while we watch neighboring communities implement. There have been several neighboring communities that have implemented it, so it'll be very interesting to see what their experience is and how they find it going in their communities. But of course, so I think I would table it with that for now.
Okay. Eleanor.
again, I think we're jumping the gun here, but there's many proposals in the comprehensive plan. There's ideas such as using the area around the northern gateway to increase affordable housing. There's talk about, and I don't want to, step on the toes of the committee. That's why I'm a little bit careful, but since this was asked specifically, there's talk about, for example, reducing required lot sizes. There's a discussion of making it, of streamlining the process to build ADUs, for example. So each one of these, none of these maybe is a solution, but each one of them might create more housing stock, which would be attractive to younger families. Another one that I think might be important is zoning in the village center. If there's zoning that buildings should be 2 or 3, new buildings be 2 or 3 stories, then the upper story could maybe be reserved for smaller apartments that are more affordable. So there's a lot of interesting ideas out there. We are trying. We're not a very big village. There's not a lot of land, but I think that there's some very creative ideas, and I anticipate that we're going to be moving forward with some of them.
Thank you, Eleanor. Mimi, would you like to respond?
Yes, I concur with Eleanor that we are working on the implementation committee, and there are some really wonderful ideas for trying to create more housing within our village. But I also think there's ways of supporting the lifestyle of people who come here. Young families, for instance, with Northern Duchess Daycare. We need to support livability, not just housing in our village, and we have to come up with creative ways to do that, right? And part of the comprehensive plan will be addressing that, and I'm hoping that we will also have other structures and programs to help people. We're working on it.
Go ahead. Yep, just a quick follow-up. So, also occurred to me, one of the things that is also going to be really important is zoning enforcement. So if there are laws on short-term residencies, I've heard a lot of people in going out and talking that we have restrictions on them, and yet they're not being upheld, they're not being enforced. So keeping housing stock more free is definitely going to be one of the goals, and I think enforcement is a really important part of that.
Can you be more specific? Enforcement of what exactly?
Like short-term residents, short-term.
Oh, STRs. Okay.
Yeah, like Airbnb.
Okay.
So if they're supposed to be people living, so there's now a regulation, they're supposed to be living in the home. So let's enforce that. We know that that's not happening in a lot of cases.
Got it. Eleanor, it seemed like you wanted to respond.
Just another one I forgot was, another suggestion would be to repurpose buildings, so to reuse buildings and repurpose them for smaller apartments. And then if you want to make the place attractive, one of the things that the Parks Committee is working on is the mini park, so that we can attract younger families, people with children, and make it a family place.
Okay, thank you. I just want to do a quick follow-up with Mimi, because you mentioned livability, and I would like to just hear a little bit more about that, just so the audience gets a more concrete
Right.
idea about what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think I was talking more conceptual than the actual buildings and how to create more housing. You know, I feel like put on the spot right now, so I need a little time to think this one through. But like, when you have a place to live that is expensive and your groceries are expensive, and or you can't live in the village center and you need to drive, right? Like, we need to have a system, an ecosystem that supports affordability, not just one aspect of housing or right? Like, we need to have a plan for
Okay.
all of it, is what I meant. An ecosystem.
Got it. How are we doing on time? Are we good?
We
Okay. I'm gonna.
Just checking with our volunteer, Kathleen Evans. And we do have questions.
Okay.
Okay. So these are some of the questions from the audience.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to segue to questions from the audience. What are 1 or 2 goals or objectives you feel are of paramount concern to the village? Ones that you intend to put your weight behind and why? And in addition, what is one thing that you think the village could possibly pull back from or possibly de-emphasize their existing focus? Let's see, who did I start with?
Eleanor next.
Eleanor. That's easy.
All right, so I would say affordability is a big issue. We need a wider range of retail stores, and we need a wider range of housing options, and I think we've talked about that quite a bit, so that would be one of my goals. Another goal is, because I am the liaison to the Parks Committee, is to make the parks really attractive places that people will come to, and there'll be places for community connections to take place. And in terms of something that I think we need to keep a balance, because we all know that the village needs tourists, but I think we have to keep in mind that we have to maintain a balance there. And when we took surveys and did the kitchen table conversations, generally people thought there was either enough tourism or too much. There were very few people who said there was too much. So I think that this is a place where we're serving our residents, so we need to be cognizant of what our residents would like to see. So I think they value the village, that had those community connections. They want to have community events. They're fine with things like Porch Fest, but they would also like events that are just for them. They want this to be the community that maybe they grew up in.
Thank you very much. Jennifer.
I guess.
I don't know. I'm only doing the firsts, not the seconds and the thirds, so you're.
Okay.
So I think the comprehensive plan is at a really interesting point in its implementation. So just reiterating what Eleanor said, I agree on the amount of tourism. It's called in the industry you call it the tourism carrying capacity, right? You want there are actually numbers that you can put onto how many. We have 2,600 residents. You can put a number to the amount of hotel rooms that you actually want in a village like ours. We don't want twice as many tourists in the town as we have residents at peak season, right? But at the same time, when it's not peak season, we need, and the local businesses need tourists to support their business. I had a Main Street business. I remember. Remember back in 2009, 2010, business wasn't so great. The tourism was down, and the businesses were suffering, and a lot of them went out of business. So we don't want that as well. But these are things that we can put numbers on. These are things that you can at least create broad goals for. So I think that's something that's I would say a priority. In terms of de-emphasizing, to be honest, I'm not sure. The other thing I would say that I really want to prioritize is public communications, external communications. So I think it's really important for the village to, think of communications as an umbrella and a funnel, right? So the village of Rhinebeck is the umbrella, and the funnel is down to the village as well. So all of the communications should support let's say, support the integrated role of the village within the life of residents, and residents need to feel that in a way that I don't think they currently do.
Okay, thank you so much. Mimi.
So, walkable, bikeable, let's be able to move around our village, once again, the safe routes to school. Those are all really important for our health and for our well-being, right? To live in this village. We need ways to get around that aren't our car. Water. Wastewater treatment system needs to be upgraded. So not sexy, but really important for us in our sewage system. Drinking water, as I said, we need to protect it against climate. It needs to be more resilient, right? Flooding, rising sea levels. We need to protect the Hudson River water. What else? Drinking water, oh, of course, the drainage is, as Eleanor was saying, along the streets, right? Like stormwater drainage is huge, and I know that we're working on that as well, and I would like to have my focus on that. I really, because I believe in community building through public events and as a form of communication, I would love to encourage either other institutions, organizations, community members to come forth with ideas for events for our community, right? And have block parties and have events at our new village green, which obviously is one of my top goals from the comprehensive plan, but we don't have. So, and using our parks and our green spaces and what we do have to celebrate each other and the things that we want to do, and to communicate our goals as well for all the different plans. It's a really great way to do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just want to let people know that for those of you who read the mayor's message regularly, we are working on upgrading the water and the wastewater treatment plants. And you can also sign up on the village, I shouldn't give this this is an advertisement, but you can, on the village website, you can sign up to, if you haven't done so already, to get regular emails from the village. I'm not saying that's the solution, but I'm just saying for those of you who are not aware of that, you can do that.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We're going to segue into our submitted questions. And the first question comes from an audience member. And the question is, what thoughts and or plans does anyone have for interesting and bringing young people to participate in the discussion? Let's see. I'm going to...
Oh, I think it is me.
I think it is you. I'm looking at So just to rephrase, how would you get young people more involved in the process? Obviously, Rhinebeck edges kind of older, so we can all admit that. And so this has been, I think, a challenge for a long time. So how do you get young people more involved in the civic process?
Yeah, that's really, I guess you have to also define young people, right? But just saying, yeah, is it the children in the school system that we want to involve in possible civic activities?
Let's say 13 to 33.
Whoa. Yeah, okay, so there are school children, and perhaps I know that there are certain civic studies programs that allow children to see what's going on in government and to participate. I think that, what is it called? Tactical urbanism, something like that, where you, when they did the safe walks to school, safe routes to school, and they chalked on the ground what it would look like, and you could visualize, and they understood, right? They were part of the process. Anything that we can do to visualize, to include, would be great.
Okay. I think Eleanor is up next.
I do the first ones, remember?
I think some of the models that we used for the comp plan would be important here. That was having community meetings. Maybe we can have community meetings that address issues that younger people are interested in. Community sorts of discussions over topics that would attract younger, like parents. And another thing that we could do is we could have, and again, I'm kind of moving back into the comprehensive plan. One of the recommendations was to have a staff member or a part-time staff member who would be in charge of this sort of community engagement. And if we could do something like that to get people more involved. It's hard because unfortunately there are people struggling and they have 2 jobs or something. It's very difficult to get them involved, but I do think it's worth the effort. And I think that reaching out is really what it's our responsibility to reach out. We can't just expect them to come, so we have to, and that's again where if we had community things such as block parties or something like that, community events, those are places where we could be doing some of that outreach and getting some of that involved.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Okay, well, you can do like I do and make your kids come. But it occurs to me that getting kids involved in this kind of stuff is actually about who are the speakers. Nobody wants to come listen to us. Nobody. No young people want to come listen to us. So, I mean, if we're talking about events for youth, let's do it in places that they're going to find are fun, and let's have people come and talk to them who they're going to find are fun. Right? We have an amazingly vibrant arts community here. We have musicians. We have artists. We have comic book artists. Get them involved. Let's have people talking to them who they actually want to listen to, who they're going to show up for.
One more thing.
Of course.
I didn't really address everybody above 18. So I do want to say that these kinds of forums are amazing, but you really don't see very many parents here, and you don't see younger people here. So I would also venture to say that there's different ways that we need to approach community activation rather than, the ways that we're doing right now, having a forum on a Sunday afternoon. People are busy.
Okay. Eleanor, you quick response?
Yes, just that we did get a good response from young people when we did kitchen table conversations. So, that was one model that seemed to work well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Another question from the audience. We sort of touched on this when we were talking about the affordability issue, and this was a question, obviously, that came from the audience. And I know enough about this issue that some of this is outside of the direct influence of a village trustee. But the question is, are you open to revisiting just cause eviction? So if anyone needs an explainer on that, I can try to help you through it. But are we good on that? Okay. Jennifer?
Well, I think I
Yeah.
keep forgetting.
Yeah, I know.
I think I kind of mentioned it before, right? So I do think we should be open to discussing it. Like I said, 44% of Rhinebeck is renters, and the price pressure on renters is probably higher than the ownership pressure is on homeowners in Rhinebeck, right? So if you're looking at two competing pressures, you have to evaluate that. But I would say it's something to evaluate what the neighboring communities. There's 10 or 12 neighboring communities that have instituted them. So I would see how it goes there, because it's a tough topic. I mean, it's really controversial. So there's and it's not black and white, but it's pretty close. It's something that's really, and there are ways to mitigate it. You can dip your toe into it a little bit, but policies that don't have teeth are, why bother?
You mean just that it wouldn't be able to, thered be no enforcement body?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Understood.
Correct. Or there would be so many carve-outs that it makes it near useless.
Okay, understood. Mimi, and then we're gonna go to Eleanor.
I do agree that we need to do more research into it. There are communities around us, but a lot of them are not small little villages. Hudson, I believe, Kingston, they have a very different economy, a very different population. So it would be hard to do an apples to apples, but it would take a deep dive into what it actually means within our special community.
Okay. Thank you, Mimi. Eleanor.
So what good cause eviction does is, first of all, it protects renters from arbitrary eviction. So there has to be a good cause. If you are this is only if you're a good tenant. So if you're a good tenant and you pay your rent on time and you take care of the property and you follow all the rules, you can't just arbitrarily be evicted without cause. I think that's an important point to make. It's also a protection against unreasonable rent increases, and there's a definition of what they call unreasonable. It is not a cap. If it's an unreasonable increase, the renter can talk to the landlord and can try to negotiate. The renter also can go to court, and then the judge would decide if that's a reasonable increase. I am a renter. I think I'm the only renter that's ever been on the board. A few years ago, my rent went up 10%. The rate of inflation was about between 2 and 3%. Talking to my landlord, didn't move the needle at all. So I understand the frustration. Two of the people that were strong supporters of this law, implementing this law, have left the village. One because her rent went up $200 a month, and the other one because of the uncertainty. Her lease was turned into a month-to-month rent, and she did not month-to-month renewal, and she did not feel safe under those circumstances.
Thank you, Eleanor. This was a question, I don't really know how to make heads or tails of this, but I think it's what you've been referring to. Is the question is, how do you feel about the bed tax? And I don't know if that is referring to. I assumed it was the occupancy tax. And if it came up, would you vote for or against the tax if it came up for a vote again? So.
Eleanor.
Yeah.
Okay. That did not come up for a vote? Okay, we did not vote on the occupancy tax. We just voted on a resolution that was saying that we did not think the town should implement it, but we didn't vote on that.
Okay, so just to be clear, it wasn't voted on according to Eleanor, but if it came up for a vote, would you vote for it? And I'm going to actually pass it to, I think.
It's supposed to be Eleanor.
What's that?
It's supposed to be Eleanor, but you can.
Yeah, well, let's stick with Eleanor. I'm like,
I think that I can't really answer that question. First of all, do we need the money? If we don't really need the money, then I don't think we should impose one just for the sake of imposing it. That was my argument about the gross receipts tax. We just have this huge unallocated fund balance. Why do we think we need more revenue? So if we don't need more revenue, let's not just gather it for the sake of gathering it. So that would be my first reaction. Then it depends on how much it is, and then it depends on, are we doing this jointly with the town and sharing, or are we just doing it ourselves? There's just a lot of issues. And finally, I don't have anything particularly, I'm not particularly opposed to asking the tourists to give back a tiny bit. We don't even ask them to pay for parking. So I think it's not unreasonable to ask for a tiny bit in return.
thank you. Jennifer.
So I agree. So I think the occupancy tax is reasonable. I do wish that we had agreed with the town from the beginning about splitting the revenue. So that revenue should be split because the village bears the brunt of a lot of the costs of increased tourism. They're mostly a burden on our infrastructure, the village infrastructure. And if there's extra money, maybe we can give money back to the taxpayers. I mean, we can always reduce taxes, can't we? So, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
And just lastly, I really do think it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. If the comprehensive plan, if the goals of the comprehensive plan are to maintain a resident focus, then this seems consistent with that to me. And if we're using it as a tool, then we should do that.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Mimi.
I need more information. I would love to do research into it about where exactly, and I know that the majority would come from the village, but where else the funds would come from, where they would go to, what the research is based on the effect on the commerce in the area. Like I don't know any of the hard facts, so I couldn't give you an answer until I have some real data.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Okay, this is a question submitted by an audience member. How do you go about learning the history and developing context for an issue?
Could you please repeat that?
Yes. I think I need to repeat it for myself as well. How do you go about learning the history and or developing the context for an issue? So like if you're, say, the occupancy tax, approaching it, like how do you go about learning all that you feel like you need to learn in order to contextualize it for what's currently happening and how it might affect populations. So I think that's you. It's you.
That's me.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay.
You're the winner.
Yeah, winner, chicken dinner. It has to be issues-based. I would need to understand, like I just said, with the occupancy tax, those are the things off the top of my head that I would need to research in order to give you an educated answer. So, in general, I want to see numbers, I want to see statistics, I want to see research, I want to understand, everything around it. Without being given an actual issue, I can't tell you how I would do the research, but that is how I would approach everything.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Eleanor.
All right, so I'll talk a little bit about the gross receipts tax. When that first came up, I'd actually been fortunate enough to go to a NICOM conference, and at that, one of the discussion items was the gross receipts tax. I knew that it was an option that a village could implement. And so when I heard that we were talking about implementing it, my first question was, how much money would it generate? Do we need that money? Then I went and started I looked at our Jewel contract. That at that point, we had not signed the contract, but Jewel had presented a CCA contract, and it was very interesting because I remembered that the gross receipts tax was mentioned in there, which is why I read all these contracts extremely carefully. So I had discussions with Jewel. I also contacted Central Hudson, got no response. I contacted Sarah Hanna's office. I researched online to understand what the tax would apply to, and I finally went, and then we had arguments about whether it was being collected or not being collected, so I had to do a lot of research on that, and I contacted Sarah Hanna's office, and just a couple hours before the board meeting, I got a response from her office that Central Hudson was not collecting it, because obviously if Central Hudson had been collecting it and was pocketing it, and it was rightfully ours, of course I want it. But if they weren't collecting it, and as it turned out they weren't, I didn't want to impose a tax on electricity, which is actually a regressive tax.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I would try to understand the context of the question, so I'm trying to understand why people are trying to understand something, and then I talk to people. So first of all, you talk to the people who it actually affects. One of the great things about America is one of the bad things about America. Everyone has opinions about everything, but very often people have opinions that are not based on actual experience. So try to find the people that have actual experience in an issue, research it through them, and then if all else fails, ChatGPT.
Okay, first ChatGPT endorsement of okay, this is another audience submitted question. What issues and or services need a joint village and town effort? And the question is asking you to pick top two. So my understanding of this is like the top two things that the village and the town could effectively partner together with and move something forward. So I believe it is Jennifer and then Mimi and then Eleanor.
Okay, so first of all, going way back, the town and the village goes through periods where sometimes they have close relations, sometimes they have not so close relations. But it's always better when we have close relations with between the village and the town. So in honesty, I mean, we really should be coordinating pretty much everything with them. We are a 1.5 square mile village in a 40 square mile town. What are we talking about separate interests? They're all intertwined. We need to be involved in each other's lives. So land use is I would say the top one, it's really pretty much everything.
Okay, TBD then, the second one. Okay, Mimi, what are the two issues that could make the town and village work more effectively together?
I think that if you think about systems in the village and the town, that walkable, bikeable is important for our 1.5 square miles, but it's also important to be able to connect a little further out to the train station, right? Whether it is sidewalks, whether it is a bike path, whether it's microtransit, we should figure out solutions together to make it seamless for village and town residents to be able to move through the area.
Was there another one, or?
Well, isn't that two?
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay,
two.
kind of, 1.5.
Okay, and Eleanor?
So if you're just asking for two, I thought I'd pick two that shouldn't be that controversial, and one of them is transportation for people who don't have cars or who no longer can drive. I think that's very important, and it's something that we could do together. And I think that a trail system, which a lot of people expressed strong support for when the comprehensive plan was being developed, I think that's something that we could work cooperatively on. So I would pick two things that would be very, not achievable in the sense that they're easy to finance and easy to implement, but hopefully wouldn't be very controversial and would get us back on a more equitable footing.
One more. Each question is.
Just one more. We're good.
Everybody should get up and move.
Okay, yeah, everyone's Fitbits are probably telling them to get up and move. Okay, so this is the last question. This comes from an audience member. Just to be clear, it did not come from me. You are all very busy and involved women. Are you prepared for the amount of time this position takes? And I think Eleanor?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mimi.
You're welcome.
Well, I've already been doing it, so I guess that's the answer. I'm a very hard worker. I've always been, no matter what the challenge, I've always been noted as a very hard worker. When I was a teacher, I would leave at maybe 5:36 in the morning, and if my kids had concerts or ball games or whatever, even like, I probably shouldn't say this because I'll lose some votes, but I'm not a football fan. But boy, I was there. I went extra to be there, an extra mile, because some of those were the kids that needed the support the most. So basically, I've enjoyed the challenge. You learn so much. You have to wear so many hats. You have no idea what the next issue is going to be. It pops out of nowhere. What on earth is the Monroe Doctrine? It has nothing to do with President James Monroe, by the way. That's another topic of discussion. You have to suddenly, you're online, you're looking at case law, you're trying to understand this legal gibberish. So it's very invigorating. It's very intensive. It's very satisfying. As I outlined in my opening statement, I feel that I've done a lot of, I've sort of earned my keep.
Yeah. So, I believe it's Jennifer.
Okay, so yes, I'm prepared to spend the time. Look, I've built a lot of big business. I've had no less than 7 businesses. I know what's involved in getting, this is not building something from the ground up, right? This is entering an already existing process. I'm an extremely efficient and effective worker. I can very easily set goals and objectives and then put in the tactics. I think my strength is that I can see the vision, but I also know all of the pieces that are needed to bring something together. So if Rhinebeck is a puzzle, we're a puzzle, and the look of that puzzle may change from time to time, but I also know all of the pieces that need to go together. So, and I'm prepared to jump into wherever I need to.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mimi.
Yes, I have the time to do this, and I think that Rhinebeck Village is currently at this great juncture where you need people who think creatively but are able to create the next steps, not just the plan, but the plan for the plan, right, on moving forward. And that's the type of collaborative, creative thinking that I really thrive on and have succeeded in my past board work, helping organizations do that.
Okay, thank you, candidates. That ends our question and answer portion. The opportunity to give closing remarks. And so we're gonna go in reverse order. Mimi, Jennifer, Eleanor, and then I'll say something.
I guess I just really want to thank the Democrat Committee Club for hosting this, Eric for moderating. It's fabulous that there's 3 women sitting up here running for village government, like yay Rhinebeck, yay us, like thank you everybody. Yeah, and I just want to leave you thinking about my current roles and what I do as a volunteer and as a leader already in our community and how I can transition to the role of village trustee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Jennifer.
Well, I prepared something, but it's 2 minutes, and I don't know, does everyone have patience for 2 minutes?
We actually have the time for you to run out the clock, so go for it.
Oh, okay. Nah. Look, I really like getting involved in the details of things. And I guess, you know, I kind of work this around all of the things. I wanted to have a strong closing on parking and solving parking and visible steps and green spaces and integrating the climate smart, but we also have to say that it's disingenuous to talk as if we are not living in the world that we're living in now. You know, I guess I'll pick it up there. Just when I think I can't be more surprised or saddened by what's happening nationally, something else happens that shakes my faith in the values we have as a country and how we treat one another, and I've struggled, like many people, to figure out where I can actually make a difference. One thing I've learned is that trust doesn't break all at once. It breaks in small moments. When people show up eager to participate and leave feeling dismissed, when everything feels divided into sides or factions, when it feels like you have to already belong to be heard. And here's the hard truth: it doesn't matter whether those perceptions are fair or not. Once people stop feeling welcome, they stop participating. And when participation drops, resentment fills the space. If we want to live up to democratic values, inclusion, fairness, and participation, then we have to practice them in how we work together. That means focusing on residents, not factions, transparent decisions, leadership that brings people along instead of sorting them into sides.
Okay.
That's the work I want to be part of.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Next up is Eleanor.
Moving forward, if reelected, or maybe I should be more confident and say when I'm reelected, some of my priorities are developing parks master plans, revitalizing the mini park, building and repairing sidewalks without burdening limited income homeowners unduly, diversifying housing options so more families and limited income residents can afford to live here, controlling the highly invasive tree of heaven, ensuring that employees are treated equitably, promoting village and town cooperation. Furthermore, I will continue to think independently because open discussion of different points of view produces better decisions and better village governance. I will continue to look for opportunities to make the village more affordable. I will continue to seek out input from all stakeholders and strive to find common ground when there are disagreements. I hope that I have earned your continued support. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, Eric, for agreeing to moderate.
Thank you. I think this was great, and I hope this was informative for everyone. Thank you, everyone in the audience. You guys were great. The questions were great. Thank you for everyone in the club that made this happen. I'm here to remind you that the election is on Wednesday, March 18th.
January 27th.
Yes, but before that, just jumping ahead, the primaries on, is it January? 27th, okay. The primary is on January 27th. The election is on March 18th. I encourage everyone to vote, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
And we're finishing early.